Hey, what's up, you all? Back with AC Sports Entertainment. For you all don't know me, my name is Alec Cash, and I just want today just talk to you guys about giving my thoughts about the Cowboys winning over the Texans last night, the 34-0 victory shutout. We haven't had that since 2012, so feels good. So let's just jump right into it. And so the first thing that really jumped out to me yesterday, I know we were dealing with a lot of injuries. I know Zach Martin didn't play, Tyron Smith didn't play yesterday. Amari Cooper still dealing with an injury. We had a different lot of injuries at a couple of positions. Ezekiel Elliott with his contract situation. So Tony Pollard, has been manning down at the running back position. Ever since training camp. He has been the guy who has caught the most people's eyes. As a rookie coming in, at Memphis, he really didn't do a lot of running back, running the football. But all you've seen all preseason long, is him running between the tackles. And, him and Dak Prescott been working very great together, as that 1-2 punch. And on the first drive, he was running between the tackles. I know he had a couple of flags that kind of set us back, but he was the first person that jumps off. And he's the one that's kind of the engine that gets the whole offense moving in the right direction. So with him, he finished, with 5 carries for 42 yards. And so I know Dak Prescott did an excellent job as well too, on the touchdown pass to Michael Gallup. So that kind of, led us to that first drive, 7-0, and kind of got things going from there. So Dak Prescott has really shown, I could see a lot of the growing with him and improvements on him hanging there in the pocket, escaping, and still keeping the play alive. And so I know he has kind of taken a lot of criticism for the past years of, taking too many sacks, but he has done a lot better job considering a lot of injuries to the offensive line. So I'm very impressed with Tony Pollard and Dak Prescott and how those guys played in their first couple of series. And so also Michael Gallup, the way he has taken the next step in his second year with Amari Cooper being out, how he has basically taken over that first wide receiver position and had just shown him and Dak with that connection has really grown so much. Last year's a lot of miscommunication with them on deep balls. I know the first couple of passes on the first drive was kind of, he had a pass behind. There was a little bit of communication on that part. But after that, they kind of seemed to get in the rhythm. On that touchdown throw, how Gallup had worked back to the ball when he saw Dak escape out the pocket. And for him to be able to, see what the quarterback is doing and to help the quarterback out and come back to the football on that touchdown play, that it shows you growth from him from year 1 to year 2. And so also, too, let's flip to the defensive side of the ball. Taco Charlton. A lot of, people, that was a head scratcher pick, back in 2017 in the first round. So for him to be able to, because sometimes it takes defensive ends, most defensive ends, it takes a couple of years for those guys to put everything all together. It's every dime in a dozen where a defensive end just comes out straight out and just makes an impact in year 1. The J.J. Watts, the Robert Quinns early in his career. You have Aaron Donald. So you have some of those different defensive line players who can come out year 1 and just make an impact. It took DeMarcus Lawrence a couple of years. He had a lot of injuries the first couple of years in his career. And I know his second year he had 8 sacks. But it was after those 2 years after that, he kind of was just injured and, suspension. So it takes, a couple of years for these guys to just put all their tools and all their potential and technique and everything together. So maybe this is the year, Taco Charlton's third year, that he can put everything together. He learned all those teachers for Rod Marinelli over the years, the criticisms. He hears what these fans are saying each and every week. When is Taco going to step up? Well, he needs to be traded. We need to cut him. So he's hearing all that. He even replied to some fans. So for him to kind of have the game he had 2 sacks, he forced 2 fumbles. Even though he came up limping out of the game, he kind of went down a few times, but he just kept fighting through the whole entire game. It just shows you that he's willing to not go down without a fight. Our defensive line is going to be very tough when it comes to trimming this roster down to the 53. Cowboys might end up keeping 7 or 8 defensive linemen because of how deep the position is. But Taco Charlton had a monster game. 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. he was wreaking havoc out there. The team combined had 8 total sacks for a preseason game. That's pretty good. But it just goes to show you this may be what we can see from our defensive line in 2 weeks when we, start the regular season. So those are good signs right there for the defense. Also, another player who stood out to me was Kerry Hyder. Kerry Hyder was a free agent signing. They picked him up. He was formerly with the Detroit Lions before he kind of had a couple of injuries. But they picked him up earlier this offseason in all training camp, OTAs, and all preseason. He has been playing different spots. He done played inside, he done played outside, but he has showed you his versatility on that defensive line. He's basically like that Tyrone Crawford who can step in and play the under tackle, if it's injury to Malik Collins or Antoine Woods, or, the defensive end situation with Randy Gregory, you don't know his status, and also Robert Quinn being suspended for the first 2 games. That's a player that you can keep and he can be versatile for you. And also Tyrone Crawford potentially missing a couple of games with the suspension he had early this offseason. So having a guy like Kerry Hyder who could play those 2 positions like that, that's a guy who in his motor and how he's been playing and wreaking havoc, that's a player right there that you can keep and make the 53, and he can be very valuable to you. So props to him for how he's been stepping up. He's a veteran savvy player who, been in here for a while, who kind of knows the system, and he's back to his natural position in the 4-3 defense. So look for him to make the 53. I know Nate Newton was raving about him yesterday on the sidelines. He was just saying as long as Kerry Hyder makes this team, he said he's fine with the D-line. Because a player like that, you need those players on your team, depth players, whenever your starters go out or they need a breather. You need those guys who won't miss a beat, who can come in high motor and play good, valuable minutes for you. So look for him to make this team as well. And so other players who stood out, very early was Joe Thomas. Joe Thomas, this is his 2nd year with us. We signed for him from Green Bay. He's been our sound backup linebacker the past 2 seasons. And since he's been here in Dallas, he just always been around the football. He just a player, no matter where he is on the field, he just always make plays on the ball. So, after we scored our first touchdown, when the Texans were punting the football, he just was unblocked, went and blocked the punt, and then he went and also scored the touchdown too. Chased the ball down, actually kicked it, to the end zone, but it actually helped us out because he was able to recover, and then it resulted to a touchdown, which, kept us from 14-0 early in the 4th quarter. And then he almost had another interception, another play where he read the quarterback eyes all the way, was playing in coverage on the wide receiver, and was able to break on the ball. And that was almost a pick 6 or near pick 6. So a guy like that also, whenever your starters go out or, is injured at the linebacker position, that is a player who you want on your team. Because if any other team, he could have been starting. So for him to be able to be a depth player for us and come in and play valuable minutes and play starter minutes and then make that kind of an impact and always around the football, you love to have those kind of guys on your team. Because, Sean Lee has proven to us that he hasn't been as reliable to play 16 games. So a player like that, whenever Sean Lee gets nicked up, he can come in for you and play valuable minutes for you and still make an impact. So having him on your team is going to be very great. So I feel like, honestly, the defensive line and the linebacking core are the two strongest from, starting and backup positions, are the two strongest positions on our team. And so as long as you got depth at those positions, you're doing very well on your defense. Now let's move to the secondary. We forced a total of 4 turnovers. We had two fumbles, both made by Taco Charlton. We also had the block punt by Joe Thomas. And then we also had 2 interceptions from our secondary. C.J. Goodwin, who's our special teams ace, he, made a great play on the ball, snatching the ball out the air, against Joe Webb. I think it was in the 3rd quarter, early in the 3rd quarter, and that was our first interception that we had, in the game. And then later in the 4th quarter, close to the end, you had rookie safety Donovan Wilson, who has been having a hell of a count. he had great interception. You didn't even see him on the camera. He just managed to come from all the way from far side in the middle of the field, and you just saw him out of nowhere just make a leaping interception, and then he managed to have both feet in bounds. So it was just an awesome play, and it was right by the Cowboys sideline. So, they was excited, they were cheering on the dude. So that's a guy who's, basically pushing, Jeff Heath and also Kayvon Frazier for a spot. Because, Jeff Heath, they really love Jeff Heath. The Cowboys, I don't think they're going to, put that rookie, who doesn't really have that much experience, especially with a win-now team that we have. I don't think they're going to let him start right away unless you do have injuries to Heath or Kayvon Frazier or one of those other guys, Xavier Woods. Then that's you're going to have a player like Donovan Woods who will step in and play starter for you. But I think to start out the season, he's more of your backup. He's more as your number 2. He could play the free safety or he could play the strong safety. I prefer him as strong safety because, I don't want him and Woods have to fight it out. I would rather have him and Woods on the field together because both of them can play the ball and both of them can, hit to and play down in the box. So that kid is really making a name for himself. And he's not really an average rookie. He was a 5th-year senior because he had injuries. So he came back to college and played an extra year. So I think he's about 24. So he's not your average rookie who's like 21 or 22. He's 24 years old. So for him to, kind of understand, I think that's why he has a better understanding of how to play, the safety position and, how to be in a certain spots. So for him to make that play, that was great, and I've been pulling for the kid, all the injuries he had through college, a kid like that who has fought through adversity. I would look for a guy to, has to play some valuable minutes this upcoming season. Possibly a backup role, play some special teams, and then, be a developmental player in about 2 or 3 years. Once Jeff Heath's contract is up and all these other players up, he could potentially be your starter with Xavier Woods down the road. And that could be your secondary, back there for, the defense for the Cowboys. So, overall, man, we did a great job. The starters went out there and did their job. Also, Cooper Rush. Let me give a shout out to Cooper Rush. I know that first preseason game, you had your head scratchers with Mike White and Cooper Rush, and you're like, oh, we have to go sign a veteran quarterback. We can't, go into the season, something happened with Dak, we're in trouble. So for Cooper Rush to put back-to-back, performances like he did against the Rams last week, and then also for, yesterday against the Texans, he has really shown a lot of confidence. The zip that he's throwing on the football. I know he didn't have a touchdown. He had 2 touchdowns, but 2 potential touchdowns that both were called back. One by Gallup, because of holding to Connor Williams, and then you also had to play with Tony Pollard, the screen. That would have been potentially 2 touchdowns right there on one drive, but because of penalties, it kind of negated, Cooper Rush from having that excellent night that he really was supposed to have. So he's shown a lot of confidence. You could just see the confidence really growing with him, trying to secure that backup quarterback position spot. And he's showing you, why the Cowboys are so high on him. At times those Cowboy fans are like, Cooper Rush is not a good quarterback. If he was playing for any other team, he wouldn't even be in the league. But you can kind of see why the coaches had kept him around. You can see why the coaches, keep giving him chances after chances, to really show, himself. And he has shown you these last 2 games how he could be, potentially a good number 2 backup quarterback in the league. And now you can start seeing that. He's showing more zip on his balls. He's showing more willingness to take chances. And I really like what I'm seeing from him. Even with the other receivers with Wilson and Devin Smith, he's showing real good, trust and chemistry with those guys at the wide receiver position. And I'm very proud of Cooper Rush. And I feel a little bit more confident, going into the season. If something were to happen to Dak, he could come in and still run that offense. Might not be as dynamic and as athletic as Dak, to break down if, it's an all-out blitz, to kind of still keep the play alive. He might not be as dynamic and athletic, but he still has the smarts, and he still can be able to make plays downfield and, and still make all the throws that he needs to. So big ups to him. And I also want to get into a couple of players that, are fighting for spots at the wide receiver position. I know early in camp, it was John V. Johnson and Jalen Guyton, 2 undrafted rookies, who were making all the plays in camp. But those 2 guys haven't really shown much when the lights came on. And that usually happens at the wide receiver position. once those lights, camera, actions come, you kind of see a decrease in, confidence, drops. You kind of see, not really know where to line up, and you haven't seen those guys, really take advantage of their opportunities in this preseason. You see more of Cedric Wilson, who was a 6th-round pick last year, who missed all year on IR with a shoulder injury. You've seen him make more of a play in the kickoff game. He has been he played Boise State and did kickoff and punt return duties. He's more of like a slender, kind of tall, lanky guy, but he's shown his versatility. And him, doing that in the kick return game, how he's, shown on that punt return, he was able to kind of escape from, all the clutter and still go out and get like an extra 15 to 20 yards. And then the very next plays, he was making plays downfield. He made like a 15-yard catch from Cooper Rush. Like, he was really out there making plays and showing, why he's deserving of that spot and why the Cowboys, took that 6th-round selection on him. So he could play the outside and he could play the slot. That's a guy very valuable right there. Similar to happened to Randall Cobb. He could step right into the slot position and play some good minutes for you, play some good snaps. So I feel like him, and also Devin Smith, who was a huge story. 2013 pick in the 2nd round for the New York Jets. Had back-to-back torn ACL injuries to the same knee, and was on the streets, out of a job after 3 years in the NFL. So he only played like 10 games total in 3 years. So he just really overcame a lot of adversity. And for him to, still have that hope not to give up, to keep fighting, he has really shown you why the Jets were so high on him back in 2013. And he has shown you his talents, how he was able to get open, the speed that he has downfield. He has really shown you how talented of a receiver he has when he's at full health. And so he's actually the leading receiver for this team throughout the whole preseason. I thought he finished with 6 catches for 76 yards in this game. He just has a knack of getting open. And I know a lot, it was a couple of balls he almost had a potential touchdown in the end zone from, I think it was either Mike White or Cooper Rush. He was kind of trailing the ball, but he had to kind of leap in front of the guy and kind of, make a play on it. But that was almost a near touchdown right there. But he has really got fans excited about making the team. And I think he's going to be your 5th receiver, and Cedric Wilson is going to be your 6th receiver. Because what the Cowboys are going to do is going to make Noah Brown, who has yet to play a preseason game, they're going to put him on the PUP list for the first 6 weeks. And those 2 guys are going to make your roster because the coaches, they really love Noah Brown. They love his blocking ability. The Cowboys are a run-first team, so they love for their wide receivers, their tight ends, and their running backs to all help out in the running game. And that's where Noah Brown can become valuable to you. And he's a big body. He can, kind of be a mismatch in the red zone as well. But he's been injured lately, but they're going to keep him. He's not costing you any money, so they're going to keep a guy like that, put him on PUP list, and Devin Smith and Cedric Wilson are going to be your 5th and 6th receivers for this team. So I'm really excited about those guys, those guys who have had injuries in the past, who have now shown their true talents, and while the Cowboys have, relied heavily on those guys. So I'm very proud of those guys, and I'm just very proud of the team performance all around on special teams, offense, and defense, and how all three sections were very valuable in this team win, for this shutout 34-0 against the Texans. So those are my thoughts on the game, and we have one more preseason game left to go next week, and after that is your regular season, and that's where you're gonna have your 53-man. You're gonna have all your guys on the 46, your game day rosters who are gonna regularly play. You're gonna have your practice squad players figured out, and you're gonna have your guys who are gonna make the 53, but they might be on the inactive list. So I'm excited, really for this Cowboys team. I know we have a lot of injuries dealing with, but the fact that these guys went out here today and put on the fight that they did, regardless of the injuries, and still kept the offense going, and still, kept going downfield, kept making plays on the football, causing wrecking havoc out there, it just really shows you a little bit of a glimpse of how this Cowboys offense and defense and special teams can be. And so I just hope that, the Cowboys have a lot of decisions to make as far as, still with a lot of contracts with Dak, Amari Cooper, and with also Ezekiel Elliott, which I think all three will get done before the regular season starts. So I'm excited, and I know a lot of you guys, Cowboy fans, are excited too. Just NFL fans in general, just the fact that football is back, and we now get a lot of this smash mouthing football, and I'm just very excited. So that's just my thoughts on the game and what's to come. And so I'm gonna keep bringing you guys more content. And keep you guys updated on the news and what's going on around the NFL. And so that's my thoughts, and just talk to you guys. See you guys later this week. So peace.